You ever notice how some men seem completely immune to manipulation? Not in an arrogant way, not in a tough guy way. They just exist on a different frequency. Women throw the usual playbook at them, and it's like watching someone try to unlock a door with the wrong key. Nothing happens. Here's what's wild about this. It's not about being stronger or smarter or more stoic. It's actually the opposite of what you'd think. And Carl Jung spent decades studying this exact type of man, not because he was obsessed with gender dynamics, but because this man represents something that terrifies modern society. Let me show you something. Picture two guys at a coffee shop. Mike's scrolling through his phone, texting back immediately every time his girlfriend messages, adjusting his schedule, explaining where he was, justifying why he liked another woman's photo from 3 years ago. He's exhausted, but he can't stop. Then there's David at the next table. Phone's on silent. He's reading. His girlfriend texted him an hour ago with something that would have sent Mike into a panic, and David, he'll respond when he's done with his chapter. Not out of spite, not playing games. He genuinely doesn't feel that pull. What's the difference? Mike needs something from the relationship. David doesn't. And that right there is what Jung understood about the male psyche that nobody wants to talk about. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We've been sold this idea that a good man is an available man, a responsive man, a man who drops everything when his partner needs validation. Society's convinced us that emotional availability means constant accessibility. That if you're not anxiously checking in, adapting, explaining yourself, then you're emotionally unavailable, commitment phobic, toxic, even. But Jung saw something else entirely. He saw that the men who were truly whole, the ones who'd done the psychological work, were the ones who couldn't be controlled. Not because they were rebels or players, because they'd integrated something most men never touch. Jung called it the anima. But before your eyes glaze over at the psychology jargon, let me tell you what this actually means for your life. The anima is the feminine aspect of a man's psyche. It's everything our culture tells men to reject. Intuition, emotion, inner life, creativity, the spiritual dimension. Most men spend their entire lives running from this part of themselves. They project it outward onto women, onto relationships, onto anything external. And this is why they become controllable. Listen to what Jung said. The meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow. The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared, who goes down to the deep well. That tight passage, that's where most men turn back. Because integrating your anima means confronting everything you've been taught makes you weak. Now here's where it gets really personal. Every controlled man is running from the same fear. That if he stops performing, stops adapting, stops being what someone else needs him to be, he'll be abandoned, alone, unloved. Think about it. Why does Mike text back immediately? Why does he explain and justify and adjust? Because somewhere deep down, he believes his value is conditional. That love is something he has to earn through behavior, through compliance. This is what Jung called the mother complex. But it's not just about your actual mother. It's about never having separated your identity from the need for external validation. It's about still operating like a child who needs approval to feel safe in the world. Sound familiar? Here's what nobody tells you. The man women can't control isn't missing this fear. He's faced it. He's walked straight into that abandonment terror and discovered something on the other side. He discovered that he's complete without anyone's validation. Jung put it this way. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you can't become who you truly are while you're still performing for an audience. You can't find yourself while you're busy being what someone else needs. Let me show you how this actually works in the psyche. When a man hasn't integrated his anima, his inner feminine, he projects it. He sees it in women. He sees his wholeness in women. And because of this projection, women hold the keys to his emotional state. They become the source of his validation, his worth, his sense of completeness. This is the mechanism of control. You give away your center. You make someone else responsible for your emotional weather. And once you've done that, you're controllable. Not because you're weak, but because you've exiled a part of yourself and put it in someone else's hands. The man who's integrated his anima doesn't project it anymore. He's found it inside himself. He's developed his own intuition, his own emotional depth, his own inner life. He doesn't need a woman to feel those things for him. He doesn't need external validation to feel whole. And this is what makes him uncontrollable. Not because he's cold or distant or alpha or whatever nonsense the internet's selling, because he's complete. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't need anything from you. Jung observed this throughout his life. He said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." The controlled man is desperately trying to follow the recipe. The integrated man knows there is no recipe. He's writing his own. Now let's talk about what this threatens. Modern relationships hell. Modern society runs on incompleteness. Think about it. The entire economy depends on you feeling incomplete. Advertising works by creating a sense of lack. Dating advice works by convincing you something's wrong with you. Social media works by making you compare your insides to everyone else's outsides. And relationships? So many of them are unconscious completion projects. Two incomplete people trying to use each other to feel whole. When a man becomes whole on his own, he breaks the unspoken contract. He's not playing the game anymore. He's not trading his behavior for approval. He's not adjusting himself to maintain the relationship. He is the relationship with himself first, and everything else is an addition, not a completion. This is why truly integrated men are rare, because to get there, you have to disappoint people. You have to let go of being what others need you to be. You have to risk being alone. And most men would rather be controlled than alone. Jung knew this. He wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." The controlled man can't communicate his truth because he doesn't know what it is yet. He's too busy reading the room, adjusting his message, saying what maintains the peace. The integrated man speaks his truth and lets the chips fall. Not carelessly, not cruelly, but authentically. Here's what Jung himself showed us. Jung's own marriage was unconventional. His wife Emma knew about Tony Wolff, Jung's longtime companion and colleague. This arrangement would scandalize most people. But here's what's interesting. Jung didn't sneak around. He didn't lie. He didn't try to be what conventional morality demanded. He lived in integrity with his own truth, even when it was uncomfortable for everyone involved. I'm not saying you should have Jung's lifestyle. I'm saying Jung exemplified what it means to be uncontrollable, he answered, to his own inner authority, not to society's script. He wrote extensively about the self, capital S, that deeper center of consciousness that exists beyond the ego. The ego wants approval. The ego can be controlled. But the self just is. It doesn't need anything because it's already whole. When Jung said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes," he was describing the exact transition we're talking about. The controlled man is looking outside, looking to his partner, his friends, his social media followers to tell him who he is. He's dreaming someone else's dream. The integrated man looked inside and woke up. So how do you recognize if you're still controllable? First sign, you adjust your behavior based on someone's mood, not your own values. If she's upset and your first instinct is to fix it by changing yourself, you're controllable. Not because caring about her feelings is wrong, but because your center shifts with her emotional weather. Second sign, you need permission. You want to do something, go out with friends, pursue a hobby, make a decision, and you find yourself seeking approval first. Not consultation between equals, but actual permission. Like you're not quite your own authority yet. Third sign, you explain yourself constantly. You over-communicate. You justify. Because somewhere deep down, you don't feel legitimate just existing as you are. You need to make a case for yourself. Fourth sign, you feel guilty for having boundaries. When you say no or choose yourself, you feel like you're doing something wrong, like you're being selfish, like you need to apologize for having your own needs. Fifth sign, your peace of mind depends on the relationship being good. When things are smooth, you're fine. When there's conflict or distance, you fall apart. Your emotional stability is outsourced. You recognize yourself yet? Here's the thing, most men will read this list and feel that gut punch of recognition. Because we've all been there. We're all taught to be there. The whole socialization process for men is about making us controllable by parents, by teachers, by employers, by partners, by society. Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." But you can't choose to become anything if you're still being what you're supposed to be. Now, here's what you actually do about this. First, you stop making the relationship your primary project. Most men make their relationship the center of their life. Every decision filters through, how will this affect my relationship? That's backwards. Your relationship with yourself is primary. Everything else is secondary. This doesn't mean being selfish. It means having a self first. Start spending time alone. Real alone time. Not just physical solitude while you're mentally rehearsing conversations or checking your phone. Jung called this active imagination, engaging with your own inner world like it's real, because it is. Journal. Not about your day, about your actual thoughts and feelings. The ones you don't say out loud. The ones that contradict what you're supposed to think. Write until you surprise yourself. Stop explaining yourself. When you make a decision that's right for you, state it simply and let it stand. I'm not available. Tuesday is complete. You don't need to justify it with 3 paragraphs about why. You're allowed to just be unavailable. Develop your inner life. Read philosophy. Create something. Sit with your own thoughts. Build a relationship with the part of you that exists beyond external validation. This is integrating the anima, developing your intuition, your emotional depth, your inner guidance. Practice disappointing people. This sounds harsh, but it's essential. You have to learn that you can say no, set a boundary, prioritize yourself, and survive the disappointment you might cause. Because until you know you can survive that, you'll always be controllable through guilt. Jung wrote, "The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering. The legitimate suffering here is the discomfort of being yourself when it disappoints others. Most men will do anything to avoid that suffering. They'll contort themselves into pretzels. They'll abandon their own truth. They'll be controlled. The integrated man walks straight into that suffering and discovers it doesn't destroy him. Here's what becomes possible. When you integrate your anima, when you become whole within yourself, relationships completely transform. Not because you become some cold, detached player, because you become capable of genuine intimacy for the first time. Real intimacy requires 2 whole people. When you're incomplete and searching for completion through someone else, that's not intimacy, that's dependency. It's 2 people clinging to each other, terrified of being alone. But when you're whole, you don't need the relationship to complete you. You choose it because it enhances an already complete life. You're not there out of fear of abandonment. You're there because you genuinely want to be. And women, conscious women, healthy women, they feel this difference immediately. They can't manipulate you because you're not playing that game. They can't guilt you because your self-worth isn't dependent on their approval. They can't threaten you with abandonment because you've already faced that fear and found yourself on the other side. This doesn't make you an asshole. It makes you an actual partner. Someone who shows up by choice, not obligation. Someone who says yes because he wants to, not because he's afraid to say no. Jung understood this deeply. The meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But you can't have that transformative reaction if you're not a complete substance to begin with. You're just a void looking to be filled. The man women can't control isn't refusing connection. He's offering real connection for the first time. Connection between equals, between whole people, between 2 individuals who've done the hard work of becoming themselves. And yeah, some women won't like this. Women who need to control men to feel safe will find this man threatening. Women who are themselves incomplete will find this man confusing. He doesn't fit the script. He doesn't play the role. But conscious women, They've been waiting for this man their whole lives because they're tired of managing someone else's emotional weather. They're tired of being responsible for a grown man's self-worth. They want a partner, not a project. Let me tell you something. This path isn't easy. Jung himself called it individuation, the process of becoming an individual, separate from collective expectations and projections. It's the hero's journey, but the hero is you, and the dragon is your own unlived life. Most men never start this journey. They live their whole lives being what others need them to be. They die with their real self, still locked inside, unexpressed, unknown. Some men start the journey but turn back when it gets hard, when the girlfriend threatens to leave, when the friends stop calling, when the family looks disappointed, when society labels them selfish. Few men make it through, but the ones who do, they're the men Jung talked about, the ones who found themselves, the ones who can't be controlled because they've discovered their own authority. Jung said it best, the greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. You don't solve the problem of being controllable. You outgrow it. You become too much yourself to be anyone else's puppet. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. Who are you when nobody's watching? When there's no one to impress, no one to please, no one to perform for, who are you? If you can't answer that question, you're still controllable, because you don't know yourself well enough to have a self to protect. But if you can answer it, if you know who you are in your core, what you value, what you're about, what you stand for even when it's inconvenient or unpopular, then you've found what Jung spent his life teaching people to find. You've integrated the shadow and the anima. You've individuated. You've become yourself. And nobody can control someone who's fully themselves. Think about it. Really think about it. Are you living your life or performing it? Are you in relationship with someone or dependent on them? Are you choosing or just avoiding abandonment? These questions don't have comfortable answers, but they're the only questions that matter. Jung left us with one final truth. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. So what are you choosing? The comfortable prison of being controllable, or the terrifying freedom of being yourself? Drop a comment and let me know. What's one area of your life where you're still letting someone else control you? Let's talk about it. And if this video hit you different, share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. Not everyone's ready for it, but the ones who are, they'll know. The journey to becoming uncontrollable starts with one honest look in the mirror. Are you ready to look?